بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم طيب inshallah. So today we'll start with the second hadith in the chapter of sidq. Last week alhamdulillah we talked about how truthfulness will lead to righteousness and righteousness will lead to Jannah, and a person continuously being truthful until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes him as a truthful one, a siddiq. And then likewise the one who lies, it will lead to corruption or fitna or evilness, and that will lead to the hellfire, and a person continues to lie until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes him as a liar. And we discussed the differences between the sidq and kadhib and iman and nifaq. So today inshallah the next hadith in the chapter عن أبي محمد الحسن ابن علي ابن أبي طالب رضي الله عنهما قال حفظت من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك فإن الصدق طمأنينة والكذب ريبة أو ريبة رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن. So in this hadith it's narrated by Hassan ibn Ali رضي الله عنه, the grandson of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, Sibt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I memorized from the Prophet to leave that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful, for verily truthfulness is a peace of mind and falsehood is doubt. And then the commentary, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah says, قوله يريبك هو بفتح الياء وضمها. So either يريبك or يريبك. And the meaning is ترك ما تشك في حله وعدل إلى ما لا تشك فيه. So he says in the commentary, basically the Arabic writing of how this word is pronounced, he says to leave that which you think is doubtful, like if it's not permissible or not halal, and leave, like, so basically like to shak fi hillihi, if you doubt that it's halal, leave it or turn away from it to that which you don't doubt in it, right? So something that is completely halal instead of something that you might be halal, might be haram. That's the commentary. The narrator Hassan radiallahu anhu, we'll talk about him inshallah, but first there's a little bit in what's called mustalah hadith, or the science of hadith, about the narrators. So for a narrator to be accepted, there's four main requirements. Rawi al-hadith, the one who narrates the hadith, there's four main requirements. Dhabit, yes. Proficient. Dhabit is proficient. Proficient in narrating the hadith, yes. Dhabit. Dhabt, yeah. Perfection, like in the, yes, precise in narration. Yes. Who narrates the hadith? The one who's like, yeah, no, narrates, transmits the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. So the scholars, they've put together basically four main requirements. So he said one of them, which is to be precise, correct, dhabit. What's that? Truthfulness, yeah. That's is another word for it. It's close. Adala. Adil, he has to be adil, right? Which means he's truthful, he's good character, he doesn't sin, etc. And then there's two more. That's the adala, yeah. What is it? Patience? Not necessarily. There were some narrators that were not patient too much. Yes, technically. Islam, so he has to be Muslim, and a taklif, he should be of age. So يرويه عدل ضابط عن مثله معتبد في حفظه ونقله. So that's in the Bayquniya, the Imam, he says that. Yeah, he says that he has to be narrating. That's for a Sahih hadith. Basically, they have to have all these requirements, right? Yes. So here, Hassan, radiallahu anhu, we know that he died at the age. The Prophet ﷺ died when he was only 7 years old. But we said in the requirements to narrate the hadith, he should be of age. He has to be taklif. He has to reach the age of maturity, right? Puberty. So how can we accept this hadith? After he narrated after he was old enough? Yes. You're guessing, huh? Yes, he narrated after he became of age. So the scholars, they say that if the Sahabi was a young man like Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan radiallahu anhu, Anas bin Malik and others, they were before the age of puberty when they heard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but they were very smart, very intelligent, so they memorized, right? We have many kids now that memorize the whole Quran and they were very young, so they can memorize still. And then when they became of age, they narrated the hadith because they know that kadhib is haram and they have the adala and all the other requirements, so the hadith is accepted. It's just a small, benefit, inshallah. So if you come across this in the knowledge of hadith, you'll understand. So Hassan radiallahu anhu, he was the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the son of who? Ali radiallahu anhu and Fatima radiallahu anha, right? So he was related to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on both his mother and his father's side, right? And he was very beloved, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His brother, Hassan and Hussein, were very, very beloved to the Prophet ﷺ. He loved them dearly and closely because the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't have any living sons or sons that lived. So these were like his sons almost, and he would call them like Ibni in some narration that we're going to recite or we'll narrate inshallah. He was born in roughly 625 in the month of, some say Ramadan, some say Sha'ban, and he was known to be very virtuous, and he resembled the Prophet ﷺ, subhanAllah, in his physical being and in his character. He had the temperament, they say, of the Prophet ﷺ, very easygoing, very patient, very modest, radiallahu anhu. And when he was born, the Prophet ﷺ, actually, he made the sacrifice for him. He sacrificed the rams on his behalf, and Fatima, she cut his hair and gave that in sadaqah in the weight of gold, right? So that's the sunnah that we follow until this day when we have a newborn child. And it said that it was the Prophet ﷺ who actually picked his name, the first grandson. The Prophet ﷺ, imagine picking his name. And he was considered from the family of the Prophet ﷺ when the Prophet, he made the mubahala, which is when the Christians, challenged the Muslims, and they said the Prophet ﷺ challenged them to swear an oath to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to basically destroy, it's in the Quran, the ones who are lying, right? Gather your family and your loved ones and all the ones that are close to you, and I will gather all my family and my loved ones, all that are close to me, and we will take an oath to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him to destroy which one of us is lying. And the Christians, they backed off, they didn't follow through to it. But Hassan was from the family of the Prophet that he included, so he's considered from the household of the Prophet. Yes, so a person who has a weak memory cannot be dhabit, Also, this is, inshallah, maybe we'll do this another time, have like a class on it if you guys want. But if the person, for example, he was dhabit and he became old and he started losing his memory, for example, or he had, like Alzheimer's or something like that, dementia, then the scholars, they will stop taking hadith from that point on, right? They will calculate the time that he was, authentically, sound of mind, and after that they won't. And then even sometimes, when it comes to adala, if it's like reported, even if that person had the little of like lies or mistruth or playing or joking or something like that, sometimes they would be classified as a weak narrator, right? Because their adala is not that top of line. It's this famous story of Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, he went very far to get a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he found the man tricking his horse to come to him with like nothing in his hand, but he's pretending like he had food in his hand. So Bukhari, after traveling all the way there to get that one hadith, he saw that and he didn't take from him. He just went back, he turned around. Huh? Imam Bukhari. Maybe we'll go back and check. If it is, correct me, inshallah. So he was, after, obviously young when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, and he memorized another hadith, and Abu Bakr confirmed it and others. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Inna hada ibni sayyidun. Right? He said, this my son, he is a sayyid, about Hassan. وَلَعَلَّ اللَّهُ يُصْلِحُ بِهِ بَيْنَ طَائِفَتَيْنِ عَظِيمَتَيْنِ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, make him as a means to put peace between two parties, great parties, nations almost, of the Muslims. He will make peace between them. And subhanAllah, so what happened, we can't get into the deep history because it requires a lot to explain it, but roughly, Ali radiallahu anhu, he was the Khalifa, and there was some lot of turmoil going on in his ruling with the Khawarij and others, right? So subhanAllah, during some of the battles, he was assassinated. He was killed by the Khawarij. And then Hassan, radiallahu anhu, he became the Khalifa after him. At the same time, Muawiyah was there. So basically the difference between the Muslims at the time was Ali, he saw that the Ummah was in a very state of turmoil, and we need to make peace and get stability first, and then we can go after the killers of Uthman. Muawiyah, who was a relative of Uthman, he said, we have to take our revenge upon them, right? And so that's how the split kind of happened. Anyways, Ali, when he was assassinated and killed, Muawiyah, he was very saddened. Even, you'll hear lots of stories and stuff like that, but they loved each other for the sake of Allah. They just had a political dispute. Anyways, Muawiyah had a lot of strength and power. So when Hassan became the Khalifa, there could have been another war, another battle between the Muslims. So Hassan, he left the Khilafah and gave it to Muawiyah, so there will be peace. And this is like exactly the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, this is before, any of this ever happened. The Prophet ﷺ kind of told Hassan something like this is going to happen. He went and spent his time in worship after that and getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some say he had, you see some narrations that even before that he married like 70 wives or something like that, and that there's a narration that says like Ali warned the people don't marry him because he divorces too much, right? Others say that's not a true narration. He only married like 7 times, and obviously it was okay to have 4 wives at the time, and he had many children, mashallah. But the other narrations, they don't seem to have much support about them, and Allah knows best. He had another famous hadith too that the Prophet ﷺ, saw him about to eat a date, and he pushed it from him and said, "Kikh," basically, don't eat from this. This is from the awsakh an-nas, like how the people purify themselves by giving sadaqah. And this hadith provided a ruling that it is forbidden for the household of the Prophet ﷺ to take sadaqah, right? We can gift to the household of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet's household can take gifts, but they cannot take sadaqah. That's another famous hadith that Hassan radiallahu anhu, he narrated. He narrated about 13 different ahadith that he all memorized when he was young, radiallahu anhu. He died in around in Hijri, like 50 Hijri, at the age of 46, and he was buried in Baqi'. Some say that he was actually going to get buried next to the Prophet ﷺ, but it was prevented, and he got buried in the Baqi'. Some say that he died from a sickness, and others say that he was poisoned. Allah knows best, So they feared that the household of the Prophet would come back into power. So whoever did that, if it's the truth, that's why he was poisoned. Wallahu a'lam. Anyways, we're getting to the hadith. This is a very famous hadith that Hassan radiallahu anhu was narrating, leaving that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful. It's a pillar of Islam. It's a pillar of Iman, it's a pillar in fiqh, right? In terms of wara', which is like a higher level of being careful and taqwa, by getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's 3 main hadith that go under that chapter. This is the first one, da' ma yuribuk ila ma la yuribuk, right? Leave that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful. Anybody know the other 2? Yes. إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس فمن اتقى شبهات فقد استبرأ لدينه وعرضه ومن وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام كالراعي يرعى حول الهما يوشك أن يرتع فيه ألا وإن لكل مالك حمى ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه. So إن الحلال بين, the halal is clear, and the haram is clear, and between them are doubtful matters that not too many people know about, right? And who not وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام. The one who always getting too close to the doubtful matters will potentially fall into the haram, right? And he said, like the shepherd who is pushing his sheep near the kingdom, like where the king has his special land. If he gets too close, the sheep can go there and eat from that land, which is impermissible, right? And then he says, like everybody has, likulli malik, every king has their hima, and the hima of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his like protected boundaries, is his muharram, the things that he has made haram. So don't get close to that, right? So whoever leaves that, he has saved his honor and his deen, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, right? And then there's one more hadith when it comes to wara. الإثم ما حاك في صدرك وكرهت أن يطلع عليه الناس. That sinfulness is something that is like making your heart not at ease, and you dislike for the people to look at it. So they say these three hadith together are the main pillars of wara, or having God consciousness and being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having a high level of taqwa. Leaving that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful. Only doing that which is is halal, so you can avoid falling into the haram. And if something feels uncomfortable to you, especially as a mu'min, obviously not for the fasiq, the evil person doesn't have this feeling because his heart is sealed, his heart is dead, his heart is always in sinfulness, so he won't have the same thing. But as a mu'min, a believer who prays all the time and fasts and does his fara'id and obligations, when he sees something wrong, his heart is not at peace. He feels, there's something wrong, right? And he dislikes for people to look at it. When these two feelings come about to the mu'min, to the believer, he knows there's something wrong with that and he leaves it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these three hadith, inshallah, form the basis of wara. And it shows how, the mu'min, the believer, he only acts upon those things that he knows are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And those things that he's doubtful from, he stays away. This, even psychologically, is good for the human being, because if you are doing your actions based upon certitude and, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to feel at ease and comfort, right? You don't have, is this right or is this wrong? But when you get to the shubuhat, or those things that are doubtful, you kind of feel, I'm not sure about something. So psychologically, it can be draining. Should I do this or I should not do this? Is this right? Is this wrong? I'm not sure. Maybe it's haram. Maybe this food is not halal. Maybe there's some pork in it. Maybe there's, I should not be alone with such and such person because it's a fitna, etc. Like these type of things, a person, a mu'min of a higher level of iman, he stays away from, so he can have the peacefulness of tranquility of leaving the doubts, right? And then when the person, falls into the doubtful, it sometimes causes grief because they think they might have done something wrong and they feel bad about it, right? But if you leave that, you're clear with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you feel actually happy that you're doing something for the sake of Allah and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, is this obligatory or mustahab? Preferred? Anybody else? Any other opinions? So the scholars, they say, in general, it is preferred, obviously, because everything in general is halal until you have a clear proof that it's haram, right? So Imam al-Manawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, and others, they say that it's just of a higher level of iman. To do so, it's not obligatory upon others from a strict, fiqh point of view. However, they say it's better, mustahab, obviously, and closer to taqwa and closer to birr, that you leave these things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you're not clear of, right? Yes. Ihsan is like highest level of iman, in a sense that you're doing everything in the ibadah. It's like it's kind of they're together, because ihsan, you're worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if He is watching you, right? That's the definition. So if you know Allah is watching you over all the time, it will increase your wara'. Like you see something that you are doubtful of, and you know Allah is watching you, I'm going to leave this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's kind of, it's like they're related in that sense. It's two different things, but one can like increase the other. The more one has ihsan, the more one have wara, and the more wara one has, the more ihsan they will achieve, inshallah. Because all of it leads to like worshiping Allah and staying away from those things that Allah is displeased with. And if you're doubtful of something, that's going to increase your ihsan. Like it might be haram, or it might be some haram in it, I'm leaving it. It could be totally halal, but I'm just going to leave it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's increasing your ihsan and your wara. There's many examples like from the Salaf of how they would leave those things that are doubtful to extremes sometimes to get that higher level with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to increase that tranquility in their hearts. There are some scholars though that say that it is wajib upon the ulama and the umara, like the leaders and the scholars, to implement this because they are seen by the public and they should hold themselves to a higher accountability, right? So it's a difference of opinion, obviously, but I think it makes sense too that the people that are leaders in Iman, leaders of Islam, leaders in the Muslim Ummah, that they should hold themselves to like a higher caliber and not indulge in those things that are doubtful, right? Because it opens a door to the public. When the regular lay person sees the Adam or the leaders doing something that's questionable, they say, well, if he does it, I can do it too, right? What's wrong with that? SubhanAllah, this was a big fitna in the past when it was like, considered by some to be smoking to be makruh, right? And there's actually some so-called scholars that would actually smoke. So it confused the people that, okay, this sheikh, he smokes, what's wrong, why can't I smoke? How can you tell me it's haram, right? So it's not a good picture, subhanAllah. Even seeing that, it doesn't sit well, So the people, afterwards, many scholars, they found out the negative health, implications of smoking, and they made it, most people say that it's haram, but in that situation, even like say, for example, it was makruh, the scholar, it's better, more befitting of him not to indulge in it because it gives out the wrong impression. Yes. It could, so they say that, if you're constant, like, so you can do, obviously makruh is that you don't get a sin for it, but it's something that's disliked, not preferred, right? So the better way to look at it is, who is it disliked by? Right? So technically, even though it's not a sin, it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with technically, right? So to stay away from it is closer to taqwa. Whereas like you were saying, if somebody's constantly indulging in the makruh, then it's getting closer to fujur, right? And then little by little, it can lead to haram. For persons, like the hadith we mentioned, in al-halal bayn wa al-haram bayn wa baynahuma umurun mushtabihat, we said that in that middle area, that gray area, if a person's constantly on there, they're bound to fall into the haram because they're so close, they're so on the edge. So a Muslim, he might fall into makruh once in a while, but he generally stays away from it. If you find somebody always into the makruh, always like finding the permissions, the rukhas, right? Always taking advantage of like not doing the sunnahs and stuff like that, not doing anything extra, taking the breaks and the leeway, always finding the easy way out. There's a scholar that says this is haram, another scholar says makruh, it's okay, I'm going to do it, it's makruh, only not haram. That person, you fear that his iman will decrease and he might start falling into the haram. The shaitan, he's very tricky. He tries to get people little by little to deviate. He doesn't come straight out, especially with the mu'min, the believer. He knows he can't get to them right away, so he starts taking away from, like say, stop doing the sunan. You have so much sunnah all the time, mashallah, you don't need to do it today, right? Relax. And then little by little, that person, subhanAllah, he starts leaving the sunnah. Oh, you don't have to read Quran that much, khalas. You memorize it before, or this surah, khalas. So he starts leaving the Quran. Starts leading the extra. He used to pray, he used to fast Mondays and Thursday. You don't need to fast little by little. So then he's doing faraid. Then it starts going, okay, delaying the faridah. Oh, there's a good program on TV. You can just do Jam'a bain al-Dhuhr and Asr, or you can, watch the sports event. It's coming. Pray Maghrib and Isha together later. It's okay. It becomes a habit, little by little. Then the person, subhanAllah, starts missing, for example. Then he starts hanging around bad people. then little by little, he ended up doing the haram. So the shaitan is very deviant, so a Muslim should always be keen on doing the sunan and staying away from the makruh or those things that are doubtful. Also, like we say that the Muslim, the mu'min, he finds peace of heart in leaving that which is doubtful. Like the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنَّ الصِّدْقَ طُمَأْنِينَةٌ, right? Being truthful, meaning leaving the doubtful, the raib, those things that are like, confusing or not sure of, for sidq, truthfulness, right? That's when you're truthful, you always have a peace of heart. When you leave the doubtful, you always have peace of heart. And this is how the hadith comes together, that the Prophet ﷺ is saying, leave that which is, doubting to you, cause you to have doubt, to that which is not doubtful. And verily, sidq, truthfulness, is relaxation or comfort for the heart, tranquility, right? Both of these, when you're leaving doubtful matters and when you're always honest, you have tranquility in the heart. When we said last week, when you're honest, you don't have to worry about, did I lie or not lie, or who did I tell this or who did I not tell this, right? You're at peace. You're always speaking the truth. You're at ease. So it's always good to be both leaving the doubtful and always honest and truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. When you're truthful with Allah, it's easier for you to leave the doubtful things. When you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you, that Allah is going to take you to account, that you're going to go Yawm al-Qiyamah, Jannah or Nar, then you're very keen to stay away that which is doubtful, because you want to get to the highest levels of Jannah, and you only have one chance to do it, right? So this is being sadiq with Allah, being truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and leaving that which is doubtful. Some of the benefits from this hadith, the scholars have written that if there is a conflict for something that is, certain with something that is doubtful, you always put the certain over the doubtful, right? This is always, like in fiqh, for example, if you're praying salah and you're certain you did 3 rak'ahs, but you're not sure, did I do 4 rak'ahs or not? What should you do? You count it as 3, right? And then you make one more. Why? You leave that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful. So you're certain you did the 3 rak'ahs, but you're not certain you did 4, so you only count 3. Like, what about wudu? You certain you made wudu, for example, 1 hour before dhuhr, and then dhuhr is coming right now, and you have shak. Wait a second, I think I broke my wudu, and it's time for the iqamah. What should you do? Make wudu again? Yes. So you're certain you made wudu, but you're not certain you broke wudu. So the certainty takes precedence over the doubtfulness. Or vice versa. Say that it's Asr, next prayer now. You went to use the restroom after Dhuhr, you're certain you used the restroom, and then you think you made wudu afterwards, and it's time for salah, and you have in your mind, I made wudu, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm sure I used the restroom. What should we do? Now you make wudu. Because now you're certain you used the restroom, but you're not certain you made wudu, so you have to make wudu. This is in fiqh there's like a big issue about this, but that's the general principle that the major madhabs agree upon. Also, it's not allowed to make ijtihad if there is a confirmation of the Quranic hadith, Quranic ayah or hadith ruling in that matter, right? You can't come up with something new that's guesswork when there's something already established. Like sometimes you find examples like there's a clear ayah or clear hadith, and then a person quotes a scholar that's contradicting the ayah and the hadith. That's not taking as hujjah, right? There's doubt in that because there's clear things that don't have doubt in it, so stick to that. When, for example, the times of the salawat, for example, are agreed upon, right? Doing your times on those agreed moments is something that you won't be punished for. But then when it gets to like difference of opinion upon the different, times, and like there's, maybe minority opinions, it's better to stick to the authentic Quran or Sunnah in the majority of scholars than to go off into the minorities, right? So always putting the principle of leaving doubt for that which is certain. If the jumhur of the ulama say one thing and there's only like one alim or maybe that says something completely different, it's safer to stick with the majority. Also, yes, what? Okay. So that's not clear 100%. But if it's a clear like command or a clear prohibition, there's no room for ijtihad. If there's a room for interpretation, that goes outside of. The scholars are allowed to make ijtihad in defining a certain interpretation if it's not 100% clear. For this, for example, إِذَا لَمَسْتُمُ النِّسَاء, it literally means that if you touch the women, right? But the general meaning of the ayah and the majority of scholars say that it means like sexual relations, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just using a nice metaphor or word to cover that, so but there's room for interpretation or ijtihad in that sense. Also some scholars, they say that with this qaida or this principle of leaving the doubtful for that which is not doubtful, if you have some scholars saying something is haram and others saying it's makruh, right? From wara, higher level of taqwa, is to leave that, to consider it like forbidden for you, to get the reward, inshallah, because you don't lose anything by leaving it, and you could be protecting yourself from punishment if it is in fact haram. So this is like a higher level also, but it comes also like, for example, if somebody says something is wajib and somebody says it's mustahab, it's better to do it, because of the scholars that say that it's obligatory. So you're freeing yourself, basically. You're removing any doubt from yourself.
So regarding this, the touching woman is only my wudu is the opinion of Imam Shafi, right?
The madhab of Shafi.
And then all the other imams say it's not, right?
Yes.
So in that case, isn't it better that take it Imam Shafi opinion, because then that you know that you live, it is no doubt. Is that?
It could be, but if you look at also like sort of like the majority is saying one thing, if you want to be on the safe side, that's fine, inshallah. But the tafsir and the ayah itself, I'm biased, I guess, because I'm more leaning towards the Maliki or the Hanbali. But if you want, if that can be considered wara for some people, if they think that yes, this interpretation of Imam Shafi'i is safer for me to say if I touch a woman, I have to make wudu, right? And then others can say, well, I'm sticking with the jumhur, the majority of scholars, they say that it doesn't make it the wudu. So either way, inshallah. There's a lot of fiqh that goes upon that question too, so I probably used the wrong example. Oh, you brought that up actually.
What about the contrary? If the lady was touched by a man that she has to do wudu, the lady was asking
I mean, I don't follow that. I don't believe he or she has to make it. Yeah.
For somebody that's her, then
It's okay. And then some say it's only if there's like desires involved. That's the reasoning behind the making of wudu, right? Because they fear that there's something that could have come from excitement, so it's safer to make the wudu. And some say if there's no excitement, whatever, then you don't have to make the wudu. And some say, like for the example, the maharam, the wife, the sister, sorry, not the wife, the sister, the mother, etc., the young child. It doesn't. There's a whole fiqh. Maybe we'll have that in our fiqh class, inshallah. But in general.
What about touching own private parts?
What's that?
If anyone touches their own private parts, wudu is good.
You guys are picking all the different issues. That's also the difference of opinion. If we will follow this hadith in terms of being safer, if you do, then it's safer to go ahead and renew the wudu. If it's just like with the back of the hand or by accident or not, intentional, then inshallah it's fine. You don't have to make the wudu. Like for example, sometimes people did ghusl, and when they're drying themselves, they accidentally, might have touched. So to be wara, you can go ahead and make wudu again. But others say that if it was not intentional or if you didn't touch it with the palm of the hand or there's no shahwa involved or anything like that, then it's okay. So whichever like you want to. Yes. What is it? Yeah. Whatever, if you follow the opinion that it's not permissible, then yeah, you can, put your hands like this or hands in your pocket or start coughing in your hand or whatever, something like if the woman tries to shake his hand in the interview, just say no. You can say whatever. I don't shake hands with the opposite sex or out of respect to you. One time I had like an old teacher. She knew me since I was younger, basically, and then she found I was like at a gas station of all places, and she recognized me somehow, and she came and like, she tried to like shake my hands, and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't," out of respect to you, and then so she hugged me, and I said, "That's fine." But, alhamdulillah. So. But alhamdulillah, I explained to her afterwards. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, inshallah, in general with the fiqh opinions, if you feel, like I said, that there's a safer choice and overall it's better. If it's something that's like going to cause hardship or harm and your madhab says that it's not, then, a lot of people allow for following your particular madhab, and that's also helps you with some, especially the lay person, it helps them with doubtful matters, because it gets confusing sometimes, like we see right now, if there's too many different opinions about something. But if they just stick to, in the learning phases, they stick to one until they learn, until they become grown in understanding, and then they can start moving on to the others or going into like the deeper explanation of the text. So that's why some say it's better to start with that. Wallahu a'lam. Also, it's not, from this hadith we derive from it that it's not proper for a Muslim to always delve into the shubuhat or the doubtful matters, right? One should abstain from, at least, the very least, always getting involved in doubtful things. Some people, their constant thing is, oh, Shaykh such and such said it's okay, right? Or it's, there's no dalil that says it's haram, right? Or there's no, it's, you're making things difficult, etc., right? So those people, they sometimes, like I said, tend to fall more into the doubtful areas. It leads them to something farther along, to the haram. So in the general, we tried to stay away from that. And they said like the people, their misconceptions of focusing on the little things and then leaving the big things is a sign of that, not having this concept understood. So it was reported that the Khawarij, they came to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, to ask about the blood of a fly, right? Is it najis or not najis? And he said that you're killing the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the relatives of the Prophet ﷺ, and you come to ask about this, get out of here. So like the priorities are not straight. You have to have like, if a person's indulging in the big sins, the little things is not going to really matter much to them, right? It's not much benefit. Another narration says that Bashir ibn Harith, he asked about a man who his mother told him to divorce his wife. What should he do? And he said that if he obeys his mother in everything, and the only thing that's left is to divorce the wife, like that's the only thing he didn't obey her, then he should obey her, right? But if he doesn't do anything his mother says, and disobeys her and is not kind to her, etc., and then she asks for this, and you're going to choose that to obey her in? It doesn't make sense, right? So he's leaving the big picture and going and focusing on the small things. Those are also signs of people falling into the doubtful matters. Also, the scholars, they say that it's better to be certain with things than uncertain in terms of like food, relationships, wealth, these type of things that can have an impact upon you directly. You should be very careful. with food, if you know, there's two ways here. So with the Muslims, you automatically assume, inshallah, that they are cooking or serving you halal. When you go to the house for dinner, they invite you. Unless you have a high level of confidence that they are using something that is, impermissible in your view, then you can ask about it. But in general, it's not permissible. It's not good to ask. But if you're going to a place where you know that they serve, for example, haram, or they mix the dishes and you can't be certain, in this area, it's best to leave it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're able to do so. And like they say that also we mentioned already, but one of the ways of the shaitan is to make the impermissible look permissible, right? So a person can indulge in it and fall into the haram. So be careful. Alhamdulillah, the deen is very simple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made certain things haram. We can stay away for certainty. We have so many halal alternatives. Khamr is haram, but we have thousands of drinks that are halal for us. Zina is haram, but we have marriage, right? For men, we're not supposed to wear silk or gold, but look at how many thousands of other things we can wear. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the deen easy for us. It's just a minority of things that are doubtful. It's best to escape those because we have so many things that are permissible for us.
How about the halal food? Like you see different restaurant, they say we serve halal meat, but they are not Muslim. Can we eat those kind of meat?
If you know that they're certified halal, it's okay. Like certain grocery stores are not Muslim grocery stores, but they sell halal meat now. Alhamdulillah, it's becoming popular, right? So if you know that they serve halal, it's okay. Like I was in Texas recently, mashallah, they have, I think, so many, because the Muslims are such a big population there in Houston. That's where I was visiting. Many major restaurants have halal options because they wanted to get the customer, and they have Muslim certifiers. They go and check and make sure that they're basically accommodating and doing the correct way for the halal. And subhanAllah, they will, as an agreement, if they're doing it right and they're serving halal correctly, they will put a post. They have 1 million followers or 300,000 followers, and then everybody knows this is a halal place, and they get so much business from the Muslims, mashallah. So people are striving. Now even here it's starting, alhamdulillah, in our areas in Virginia, it's starting to get like that too.
Last week we were in one restaurant. They said they serve the halal meat, and in the menu we saw that they sell pork too. So we asked, what kind of halal?
It's not halal pork. No, but they might have. So they usually would have separate cooking. They have separate cooking utensils and stove for yeah. You can make sure, yeah. They're usually accommodated. You can ask, for example, for pizza to be cut with their own, clean utensil, or give you proper utensils. And most people, they're respectful. Even the Jewish, especially the Orthodox, is even way stricter than us. They cannot even use other utensils than their own. They're considered najis, impure for them, right? The utensils themselves. So for us, it's a lot easier. Alhamdulillah. This principle also, in modern times, it's very applicable when it comes to business transactions, because subhanAllah, there's so many doubtful matters that we tend to get involved with, and we're not sure about. So if we can, inshallah, try to avoiding those things to be on the safe side, it's better. Or at least consulting with a scholar to make sure that you're doing business correctly or investing correctly, or these type of things, just to be on the safe side. SubhanAllah, this hadith nowadays, it seems that more as things progress, it becomes a little bit more confusing for the Muslim. And the Prophet, there's a hadith saying that يَجْعَلُ الْحَلِيمُ حَيْرَانًا, that there will come a time towards the end of time where the halim, the good person, the righteous person, he becomes hayran, confused, right? Because there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up and understand, what's right, what's wrong sometimes. So holding tight to this hadith will help us, inshallah, be grounded and give us kind of a principle to live by to avoid those things that are doubtful. Trying to earn our money from halal sources, asking before we do something. Sometimes, a lot of times I find people, they get they do the whole transaction and everything, and then they come and ask, is this okay, Sheikh? Or something like that. They've already done it. It's over. It's clear in the contract there's riba. They're taking a percentage of interest, etc. It was worded differently, but if you would looked at it correctly, you will understand. Like there's some, credit unions or credit cards, they won't use the word interest, but they'll use different words. But it means the same thing. You're paying. You borrow. They give you what's called like a line of credit, and you, for example, they give you a line of credit for 10,000, and you have to pay back 12,000, right? They don't call that interest though. They call it like monthly payments, So some people think that it's okay, and technically it's interest. It's the same thing. So asking beforehand is much better than asking afterwards. May Allah forgive our mistakes. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, he was not intentional because he came to ask at least, but we should be in the habit of knowing before doing. I guess this hadith took longer than expected, but alhamdulillah, inshallah there's some benefit. Jazakumullah khair. Any questions before we end? Subhanakallah bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.